Welcome to The Know. I'm Brian.
And I'm Gus.
So this has been an unusually bad 12 months when it comes to layoffs and studio closure. Most recently, Telltale obviously closed down in sort of flamed out in spectacular fashion, but PC Gamer actually compiled a list of 10 big studios that closed over the last 12 months, and they kind of
That's almost one a month.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it started dating back to Visceral and their Star Wars project that got shuttered. So it's just, I kind of want to go down the list and then just talk about it because it just sort of looks like a bloodbath.
That sounds like a lot. I can't think of 10. So
Right.
I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch.
So here's the list. And again, shout out to PC Gamer for doing this. Motiga, creator of Gigantic.
Yep.
75 employees. Of course, Visceral. They made Dead Space and then the unreleased Star Wars project. At least 80. More recently, Telltale Games, 275 employees. Boss Key Productions, Cliffy B's.
Lawbreakers.
About 60 at peak. Runic, creator of Torchlight. Carbine, creator of Wildstar.
Right.
The Bartlett Jones Supernatural Detective Agency, which made Drawn to Death.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
which...
That's an interesting name for a developer. I didn't realize that was their name. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't save them, though. Wargaming Seattle, formerly Gas Powered Games, approximately 150 employees. They made, let's see, Supreme Commander Dungeon Siege. And
I remember Gas Powered Games. I didn't realize they had rebranded as Wargaming Seattle. Okay.
Yeah. And then Capcom Vancouver, that just happened. They did Dead Rising, 158 employees. Gazillion Entertainment, creator of Marvel Heroes, about 200. And so those are just the closure. But then Disney Canada recently, they did the mobile Club Penguin. They announced they're shutting that down. Big Fish Games, Harmonix, Hangar 13, Robot Entertainment, Volition, and Twitch had layoffs too. So I think everyone knows that it's a tough industry. I mean, I think historically gaming has been pretty brutal, but I don't remember another 12-month span that's been this bad.
Yeah, and I think most people in the industry expect that employment is very cyclical. When a project ends, people who are hired temporarily get laid off, and they go find another project and another studio to work on.
Right.
But this is just outright studios gone.
Yeah, because I think for some games it seems like almost like movies where it's like they'll staff up for a project, project comes out, they staff down, and obviously there's a team that stays, for maintenance and stuff like that. But and they also, there's been a lot written about this, but also I think outsourcing is a big thing. There might be a small staff. I think they talked about Psyonix, which makes Rocket League. There's a pretty small core group, but then they outsource, various functions, overseas. There was also an interesting, there was a state of the industry survey that GDC did this year. 32% of respondents have worked in the industry for fewer than 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And there was a huge drop off that stayed longer. Only 17% worked for 7 to 10 years, just 13% between 11 and 15 years. What do you think is so hard about gaming?
Maybe people just burn out. I think, everyone talks about crunching and just having to really focus on it. And I think that, maybe we're seeing the side effect of that, where you don't have people who've stayed in the industry a long time.
Right.
They don't have the experience and the know-how how to land these projects and run these companies successfully. So we end up with relatively new people running things, and they're trying to figure stuff out. They're doing the best they can, and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah. I think, and we have projects, and we don't have crunch here, but I mean, we can work long hours and stuff, but gaming seems like, in a league of its own, especially like when a deadline approaches.
I will say our animation department does have some serious crunch. Shout out to those guys. I don't want to say we don't have any crunch.
Y'all are doing a great job.
I think, even internally, we've worked to mitigate a lot of that and to try to alleviate it, but it's still something that invariably happens. And I think going back to my earlier point, as you have people who've worked in the industry longer, they know how to avoid this, and early planning and early work can ideally stop that. So I think it's something that if we could start the cycle of people working longer, learning to alleviate crunch, making it easier for people to stay in the industry, it can be better in the long run.
Right.
But we're far away from that.
It also seems like a thing where maybe it's somebody's dream job going in, but you don't really know what the day-to-day life is like until you get in. I think about like school teachers. Like both of my parents were school teachers, and like there was an incredible amount of burnout in that job. And there were stats about how most don't last, 3 to 5 years, and then they're gone. And this kind of seems not quite the same thing, but like kind of a high pressure job, and just something to where you might get in and you can do it for a few years, but after a while it's just like,
give me that 9 to 5
yeah.
boring job.
Right.
Like, give up on the dreams and settle for
Right.
something
Right.
more predictable.
Yeah, but if you're working like 12-hour, or 14, and also I think too, when you're single, it's one thing, but I think also when people maybe get families and have kids and things like that, that's a little bit harder if you're working, 70, 80-hour weeks.
So the moral of the story is people should abandon their dreams. And
Absolutely.
and they should now pursue their dream jobs.
Yeah, get your 9 to 5, do your dreams on the weekend, like everybody.
I think it's just the industry as a whole has some room to grow,
Yeah.
and hopefully,
Yeah.
things will get better, and maybe we can avoid this kind of thing. I think even avoiding the thing that we've accepted as being okay, the cyclical,
Right.
Work environment, like even that needs to change, and I think there's a long way to go to get there.
These millennials coming up don't want to work
Yeah.
hard. And so they gotta-
Watch how are millennials ruining the video game industry? Find out. Is that what we're going to title this video?
Poor millennials get blamed for everything, I think. There's also been some talk about, sort of more workers' rights or some protections being built in. In the case of Telltale, I think there's a lawsuit involved because they didn't give, according to the suit anyway, not enough advanced warning that they were going to have layoffs. They famously got let go with no severance at all. So, yeah, I wonder if that, it might lead to changes, or, you might see like legislation getting involved. I don't know.
Maybe this is step one of the industry growing up.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
You got to treat your people right.
Right.
Then they'll stay around longer.
Right.
Then they'll do a better job running the companies. It's all going to feed itself, hopefully, and be better in the end.
You can kind of tell with like employers, I think. Like I remember when I was, sort of past jobs, you can tell if there's something questionable, if there's just a lot of turnover. Like, okay, there's something wrong here. Like I worked in a movie theater in college, and people did not last more than a few months.
Yeah, an old job I had, we had 400% turnover in a year.
Dang.
The entire staff was gone and rehired 4 times over in a year.
Holy shit, in just a year. Yeah, I remember in my that college job at the movie theater, I stayed there for, I think I only made it 9 months, but I was a veteron.
Yeah, you knew everything.
I'd made projectionist, I was, running things. Okay, well, yeah, I think, we'll see what happens. And I'm sure a lot of these people will find, employment elsewhere. Like with Telltale, there was a whole effort, Telltale Jobs, that hashtag to get them, placed elsewhere. So that's good.
That's good, but then I think the fear here is, like you mentioned there, PC Gamer said 10 studios closed in the last 12 months.
Right.
If you continue to see studios disappear, there won't be studios
Right.
around to hire these people.
Right.
There's not enough there might not be enough studios left to hire them all.
That's
so
right.
You got to make sure that there's enough stable companies to pick up the slack and hire these people.
Well, and there's been, and I think this has been a trend in the industry where the middle kind of gets hollowed out,
Yeah.
sort of the mid-sized studios. So you still have your Giants, your EAs, your Blizzards, all that. And then on the other end, you have indies making, smaller games with sort of free tools and not there's anything that's great, but there's not that.
It's a mid-range.
Yeah, of sort of 50 to 100 or whatever.
It's the same way that Hollywood has gone.
Right.
Everything's either
Right.
a AAA blockbuster or it's a tiny indie film, and there's no medium film market.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
parallel to that.
And the budgets have gone insane in games, just like they have with movies. But to make, the bar constantly keeps getting raised. So to make a game with realistic looking graphics in 2018, 2019, that takes a shitload. I mean, that's hundreds and hundreds of people. And these are highly paid employees. I mean, they're not hiring these, people at $15 an hour. So there's just a ton of expense there.
Yeah, and there's people who you need people with experience. You need
Right.
people who know what they're
To
doing
run this shit,
to get
yeah.
it done. Yeah, I mean, it's a vicious cycle we're in the middle of right now.
I couldn't run a game at all because I would totally procrastinate.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to crunch the last week.
Yeah, like, hey, I don't know how this happened, but the game's supposed to ship next week.
We're fucked.
Yeah. I hope y'all don't need to sleep.
Yeah, we're about to get fired when this doesn't ship. All right, so that's all we've got on this story, but I just wanted to talk about layoffs and kind of drill into it. Obviously, it's a crappy situation. What do you guys think? How could they make it better? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you around.